UPod Street is an official affiliate of Birdland Sports. Visit birdlandsports.com/UPodStreet, and 10% of your order will go directly to supporting the pod. Use code UPodStreet at checkout, and you'll get 10% taken off your order. Now sit back, relax, and keep that beer cold, because it's on to UPod Street. What is up, Birdland? I am some guy that's addicted to watching Orioles hype videos, Jimmy Horn.
Those are really
and
good
joining
ones
me,
today.
as always, is the brunette Thor himself, Jack Bain. Jack, welcome to our very special ALDS Preview UPod Street. How are you feeling right now?
Feeling good, man. I mean, we talked about it right before we hit record, but it's like Christmas Eve right now.
It is. What I said is it felt like a combination of Christmas Eve and opening day. And I legitimately don't know if I'm going to be able to fall asleep tonight. I don't know. I'm so excited for this weekend that I don't know if I'm going to get any sleep, honestly.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're coming into this. This is like the first time in my older years where the Orioles have been in the postseason and that I've cared about it this much. So the fact that we're in such a good spot, and the fact that we can be home for a series is just it's like it's Christmas, man. Like there's no other way to say it other than it's like Christmas. A lot to look forward to this week.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of complaining, but also a lot of worry, but also a lot of excitement with all the things happening in Baltimore this weekend. I mean, Baltimore feels like the center of the universe right now, right?
Yeah.
We got playoff baseball. We've got a massive concert happening. I think there's another concert happening Saturday as well. There's like a festival happening at Fells Point. There's a taco fest happening at Power Plant. There is so much stuff happening this weekend. And I put a post out there. I was trying to take all the narrative that we've had with people freaking out about times of games and how it's going to work with the concert and everything. And to really, try and let people know, let's sit back and enjoy this for a second, because this is going to be so good for Baltimore. The economy for Baltimore is going to be great. So many people are coming for so many fun things in Baltimore. And let's also take this as a humanity moment, Jack. Let's all recognize it's going to be a busy time. Let's try to be patient with each other in traffic, right?
Yeah.
When we're partying in the bars downtown, make sure to tip your bartenders and waiters and waitresses, and let's just enjoy this weekend. Let's enjoy it.
Yeah, for sure. So in case you haven't already heard, the Rangers will be traveling to Baltimore tomorrow they're already here, but tomorrow afternoon we will be playing the Texas Rangers. Quite literally a half hour, maybe not even. The Rangers announced their starting pitchers for game one. They're going to go Andrew Heaney. And this is a guy that, we haven't seen a whole lot of, in the past couple years. We did see him this season, however. In the first week of the season, or second week of the season, Andrew Heaney came out of the bullpen in game one of a 3-game set in Arlington. This was a series, right at the beginning of the year, and the Rangers were red hot, outslugging everybody. And the Orioles were still trying to find themselves. So going all the way back to April, in the first game of the series, this was a game that Kyle Gibson started. Orioles won 7-2. Notable performers out of there. Jorge Mateo had a great game, as well as Ryan Mountcastle, and that was kind of the narrative for the weekend there in Arlington was Mateo and Mountcastle. So, before we even think about tomorrow, it's like we look back at what happened in those first two series. Season series is split, like you said before, Jim. 3-3 in 3 game sets. I know. What are your first impressions on what the season series looked like? Because I feel like you go through any postseason series, you got to look at what happened before.
Yeah, I have like two initial reactions to it. One is, there's a little bit of fear because that last series that we faced Texas was the series where they literally knocked Grayson Rodriguez out of the major leagues.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a game where they scored 12 runs. Grayson Rodriguez then went on a sit to AAA afterward. And that's kind of the thing about this Texas team that makes them so good. They have a lot of offense. A
Yeah.
lot of offense. And we saw that in the wild card series against the Rays. My other reaction, though, and what I keep kind of telling myself is these are two very different teams. I mean, the fact that we finished up our season series with these guys back in May,
Yeah.
there have been, I mean, it's now October. It's been 5 months since we last faced
Mm-hmm.
the Rangers. And I mean, like in that time, you think of all the things that happened. Like I said, they knocked out Grayson Rodriguez. Grayson Rodriguez has since come back with a vengeance. Since he's come back from that point, he has what, a 2.38 ERA in that time. It's something ridiculous like that. So he's going to be our game two starter, which we'll get into that in a bit. But I mean, it's a wildly different Grayson Rodriguez that they're going to be facing.
Yeah.
Think about, like you talked about that first series. Uh, Jorge Mateo was the big thing in
Right.
baseball for all of April. Jorge Mateo has since fallen off the face of the planet. He will probably still be on this playoff roster, but he's going to be used almost strictly in a pinch running role, I would
Yeah.
assume.
For sure.
Since then, Gunnar Henderson, who had a really slow start to his Rookie of the Year campaign, has now all but become the unanimous Rookie of the Year winner for the American League. So it's one of those. I do think watching that wild card series against the Rays, I honestly was kind of hoping for the Rays.
Yeah.
I felt like the Rays were a little bit more beat up. I felt like they were definitely like limping into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And there was enough familiarity there that I really felt like the Orioles had a really good chance against the Rays. And what we saw was a complete shellacking of the Rays by
Yeah.
the Rangers. So do I feel super confident going into this series with the Rangers? Absolutely not. Am I excited for it because I think it's going to be a really good series? Absolutely. I think whoever wins this series, we're looking at a 4 or 5 game series, and I would be willing to bet a 5 game series.
Yeah, for sure. I think that the one thing that sticks out to me about the Rangers is that they did play a team in the Rays that were, I wouldn't even call it limping. I would call it crawling to the finish line. I mean, their offense, especially in that wild card series, was really, really sluggish. I mean, it never came alive, really. I mean, they scored what, 2 runs the whole series. I mean, granted, it is two
I
games.
think it might have been 2 runs the whole series. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the offense just wasn't there. They were sending Jose Siri out there, who was completely banged up at the time. Ray's pitching wasn't the Rays pitching that it's been um, all year. I'm not. I think I'm a bit more confident in playing the Rangers just off of the fact that they played a Rays team that did so well in the first half of the year. Pretty much. I mean, they had a great season, right? 90 plus wins. That's a great season.
99 wins.
Yeah. The fact that I thought the Rays pitching was not great ending the year, and it proved to be true again in the wild card series. Glass now got touched a lot. Defense didn't help him, obviously, but those were some hard hit balls. And Savali didn't look good.
And
You know
you
what I
know what
mean?
else didn't help the Rays? Were the crowds.
Yeah, I mean we could get into
How
that,
demoralizing. I
but
mean, we talk about baseball and any sport really. There's a lot of mental side to it. But how demoralizing for the Rays does it have to be? You have a 99 win season, right? And you come out in your playoff and you have a historically bad crowd. Jack, this was the worst. Game one of that wild card series was the worst attended playoff game since other than COVID, since the 1919 World Series, which was
Yeah.
the Black Sox scandal, where the players were literally throwing the game. And you have a less than 20,000 fan appearance for your playoff series. I mean, I don't think that was the only thing that affected the Rays and made them not play well. I think the Rangers did play them very well. But that has to have a major hit on your psyche if
Yeah.
you're one of those Rays fans. I do not think we're going to have that problem in Baltimore this weekend.
No.
But that I really think that added to how well the Rangers played the Rays, because they there was no home field advantage, right?
Look at a team like the Phillies, right? Citizens
Yeah.
Bank Park was rocking those two games, and the
Nobody
Phillies
was sitting the entire game.
No,
Nobody
and the
sat.
Phillies players fed off that, and that's something that the Rays didn't have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So and tomorrow, I I don't expect tomorrow to be like even for 1 second lower than like I don't know 80 decibels.
Oh, I'm
Like
saying 100 decibels. It's going to be over 100 decibels the whole time.
tomorrow's gonna
Yeah.
be rocking. The Rangers. They didn't see that in Tampa. They just didn't. So we're bringing on a whole different animal, a whole different team that plays the game so much differently than the Rays do. I mean, you look at the O's, and like this can segue into like who we think needs to be kind of that X factor in this ALDS series, and our young core, right? Adley, Gunner, Westberg, who I assume will be on the roster. Even Hayes isn't that old. Mountcastle's a young guy. Like those are the guys that are gonna like take that crowd energy and just feed off of it.
I agree with you, and it's kind of like one of those things too. Like we talked about, like DL Hall, like during that clinching game, he came out there, he threw that rosin bag on the ground, and he was feeding off the crowd energy. He was getting
Big
amped
time.
up,
Big
and
time.
I really feel like a lot of these guys are going to feed off that. I mean, they felt it a little bit this season. I feel like the crowd getting into it,
Yeah.
but Jack, I talked about. I have this core memory from 2012, which was, the first time the Orioles had made the playoffs in 15 years. During the broadcast, the TBS guys had a decibel meter on the field,
Yeah.
and it was reaching 125
Yeah.
decibels. And they were showing it was consistently at like 118, 120 decibels.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to be like all weekend.
If not louder.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be absolutely huge. I think we as fans, as a 10th man, have a responsibility to make sure it's that loud.
Yeah.
Because like you said, Texas hasn't had that yet during the playoffs. And Texas hasn't had a playoff run in a while. So when the Orioles go to Texas, it's going to be loud there. So we need to use every home field advantage that we have.
For sure.
Speaking of rosters, you mentioned all these X factors that the Orioles are going to have. We still, Jack, and this gets to Joe's question that we have up on the screen here. We still do not have a finalized roster for the Orioles. Seems like both managers, because we don't have a finalized roster for the Rangers as well, both managers seem to be playing this pretty close to the chest. Like you said, the Rangers only announced their game 1 and 2 starters maybe like half an hour ago. So no final decisions at this point, I suspect, with the fact that the Rangers are throwing out 2 left-handed pitchers to start with. That's going to affect who High decides to put on that 26-man roster. So Joe asked here, does Heston make your roster? Well, it's important to note Heston Kjerstad, lefty.
And like I would, now that they're starting 2 lefties, excuse me, I would not be surprised if Kjerstad gets left off the lineup or off the roster, and it's not any indication about how he was playing. And personally, I don't think it's a bad move to leave him off that roster with two lefty starters going. Granted, in the playoffs, starters tend to go, less innings over time. Wasn't really the case with the Rangers. But those lefty starters, Heston's not going to have anywhere to go. And he's not an above average fielder. He doesn't have above average speed. So there's really no spot for him on this roster at this point in time.
And we kind of talked about that last episode too with Heston. Hasn't gotten a lot of playing time at the major leagues. I think the time that he has had will be valuable for his development as a player. I think being around, even if he's a taxi squad guys can still be in the dugout and everything. I think that will be good for his development as a player to witness a playoff atmosphere.
Yeah.
I just think he's probably going to be the odd man out on the offensive side. As we talked about last week too, pitching side, you're probably looking at Cole Irvin, who eventually, with Bruce Zimmerman in between, took over the spot for Jorge Lopez. He's probably going to be the odd man out there, and that's a pretty easy one because Jorge Lopez wasn't going to be eligible for the playoffs anyways. I mean, it is really interesting, Jack, thinking about this roster, and I keep going back to this, just how different this roster is from when we last faced the Rangers. I mean, we have Fujinami in the bullpen now. We have Jacob Webb in the bullpen now. We have Jack Flaherty, who's probably going to be a bullpen long relief guy. Tyler Wells is no longer a starter, although he wasn't a starter, or he was going to be a starter in that first series, and that's when Kyle Bradish got hit in the ankle, and then he came in and pitched 6 great innings, and but he's back in the bullpen now. Negative, no Felix Bautista now.
Yes, yeah.
One thing that is a really interesting is that back at the beginning of the year, the narrative was, well, the Orioles don't have pitching. The Orioles don't have pitching. The Orioles don't have pitching. That's not the problem this time of the year. The Orioles do have pitching. And, on the other side of the ball, the Rangers, beginning of the year, they had Jacob deGrom. I mean, that's who Grayson Rodriguez faced off in his MLB debut was Jacob deGrom. Yeah. deGrom now shut down for the year. They also got Max Scherzer, who, as I talked about, Max Scherzer is injured right now through some live sessions today. They're trying to see what sort of role they might get Max Scherzer in. It's just going to be a really interesting series. And I think what's interesting for baseball is these are two teams that really don't know each other that well, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, with the new schedule, obviously we got to see them probably more often than the past 3 years would have been. But it's just not a team like you think about Orioles baseball, and they just don't really they don't come to mind quick. Like, oh yeah, the Orioles played the Rangers. Like, I remember when Rougned Odor was on the Rangers and playing the Orioles.
Well, yeah, because that's when he punched the crap out of Jose Bautista.
Right. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun matchup. Obviously, everybody has their scouting on each other. But that's about it. Like, I feel like you got to play a lot more games a year to really get the feel for how you play a team.
Oh, absolutely. Great question here from Joe. So we have our game 1s and game 2 matchup set, right? Game 3, which will be Tuesday night in Texas, likely going to be John Means, I would assume.
Yeah.
If it goes to game 4, who are you giving the ball to?
Honestly, if we take both of the games at home, I think John Means is definitely the he's better on the road, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I think you might give it in game 3, give it to one of those two. If you win both at home.
So if we go into,
let me tell you, let me
give it to Gibby in game 3.
And let me tell you why. Gibby pitched pretty good in Texas earlier in the year, and I don't think that he's changed much as a pitcher throughout the year. I think we got what we signed up for, and that's been fine. He's been effective in some spots, and he's also been ineffective in some spots. But with the past history against the Rangers, I'm letting Gibby ride.
He also has he has the playoff experience.
Always helps. Always helps. Him and Hicks are probably the only ones who've been in a playoff game on this roster.
Oh man, are they?
Frazier maybe, but
Frazier maybe. Well, Frazier because he was on Seattle last year, right?
yes, and he was on the Padres the previous year. So yeah, he's been there.
No, yeah, I agree. I give it Gibby with Dean maybe on call if Gibby starts to look a little rough. Hey, be prepared that you're gonna have to throw in some innings there. I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry, I had to pull my outline here. What do you think, Jack, about the game 1 announcement today? This is not baseball related. It's festivities related. Our ceremonial first pitch is going to be Adam Jones, and the national anthem will be your favorite singer, Jack.
Yeah.
Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Joan Jett.
What do I think about this?
Yeah, what do you think about it?
I think it's fine. I don't know, man. It's it's the pregame stuff, you know. I'm more worried about the baseball game.
That doesn't fire you up?
I mean, it fires me up just fine, but I'm gonna be fired up enough to be in there.
I was interested that they picked Adam Jones, because he was just there a couple weeks ago, for his ceremony. But I like it. I mean, I'm always pro Adam Jones doing stuff. I thought it would have been a brilliant troll job if the Orioles had gotten Joe Saunders to come out and throw out the first pitch. Also saw some recommendations of doing the Omar whistle and having Felix Bautista come out and throw a first pitch. That would have been cool too. Could still happen in game 2, right?
Yeah.
And then as far as the national anthem, getting Joan Jett to do the national anthem, I'm sure they didn't even have to ask her. I'm sure she called them up and said, "Hey, you want someone to sing the national anthem? I got you." I posted pictures today. When we visited the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I made sure to put my Orioles hat next to her stuff in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
No, I think it's cool. I think it's cool stuff. There is an important note here, Jack. The Orioles want it to be an orange out on Saturday. So
orange.
all your Orioles gear, go through it and make sure that you're wearing something orange to really build into that orange out idea for Saturday. All right.
Yeah.
You got that covered?
Yeah, I'm on it.
You think you have some Orioles stuff that might be orange?
I think I'll be okay.
Okay.
I think I'll make it.
I was worried for you, but
So I'm assuming that means that the Orioles be wearing their orange alternates that they usually wear on the weekends.
I would think so.
So who wearing orange tomorrow on the Orioles do you think need to be like they need to show up, right? They need to be that X factor. It doesn't have to be like, Adley and Gunnar. Obviously, they're going to show up, right? Who not in like that big core that we have, like, rookie of the year core, all the accolades, all stars, whatever. Who outside of that core do you think has to show up tomorrow in a big way, or tomorrow, the whole series, whatever?
I'm gonna throw a name out here, and I think he is part of a core, but there's a lot of questions surrounding him. I think Ryan Mountcastle needs to show up because when you're looking at lefty righty matchup and platooning him and O'Hearn, Mountcastle, the righty, is going to go up against left-handed hitting. And he, of course, if you are a right-handed hitter in Camden Yards, you're going up against Baltimore, right? So I'm not saying Ryan Mountcastle has to come out and have a 9 RBI game. I'm not saying that he has to come out and hit home runs, but he has to show up and get on base, right? I think he's going to be challenged. I think that he needs to focus on just getting the bat to the ball and getting hard contact. If you get that gap between left and center, if you hit it down the line, it could make for really exciting moments. And we need Ryan Mountcastle to be post vertigo IL stint. Ryan Mountcastle. We need the Texas Rangers to wear blue so he thinks that they're the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah.
We need Ryan Mountcastle to really show up in this because O'Hearn's clutch factor has been amazing. But I'm telling you right now, if they're throwing left-handers out there, it's not going to be O'Hearn playing in this game. It's going to be
Yeah,
Mountcastle
for
until
sure.
maybe Hyde does a late game switch or something like that based on who's pitching late in the game.
For sure. I mean, obviously you want Mountcastle, get the extra base hits. You want him on base, obviously. But I think that parts of his game that, kind of go unnoticed, like the glove, right? A lot of big
Great glove.
lefty power bats in this Texas lineup. You got to be ready over there at first base. And I think he's going to rise to the occasion and really play a good first base as well. Outside of, driving the balls in the gaps, I think he's just got to put the ball in play, man. Like, as long as he can cut down the strikeouts down for this short period of time, he's got a BABIP of 315. So when the ball goes in play, right, he's got a batting average of 315. So I think if he can just, like you said, make contact, see the ball well, maybe he comes out of the gate a little sluggish at first, but once he gets that first hit, man, like I think the floodgates will open.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he just kind of needs that weight off his shoulder, and he'll be good to go. What about you, Jack? Do you have an X factor that needs to show up for this series?
I know that we're giving him a lot of credit for how he finished the season out, but I think Grayson Rodriguez, dude, I think that's got to be my X factor because you know what the ceiling is, right? It's 7+ innings of 1 run, 2 run ball, bunch of strikeouts for facing a Texas lineup that really doesn't strike out a ton outside of those 4, 5, 6 guys. Like you're gonna have to come with your best stuff, and I think if Grayson can come with his best stuff and take that game too, regardless of what the outcome of the first game is, if you can take that game two at home and then head on a high note to Texas to either try and sweep the series or, put yourself in a really good spot after game 3, I think Grayson Rodriguez is that guy. We've seen the floor too, and that's not going to win you a playoff game.
I think if we get Grayson Rodriguez, who's amped up, who comes out of the gate throwing 101 in the first inning or something like that, I think we're going to see a really good Grayson Rodriguez. If we see a Grayson Rodriguez that after he strikes a guy out is screaming into his glove,
Yeah.
I think that's going to be an early indicator that, oh yeah, he's here. He's ready to go. I think it'll be good mental hurdle for him as well, to get through this really tough Texas lineup that again back in May knocked him back down to AAA. But
Yeah,
also he's a completely different pitcher than
for
he
sure.
was in May.
No doubt.
Completely different. He's got a put away pitch now. He's not, getting 2 strikes and then walking guys as often anymore. I feel like the defense behind him has shored up a little bit too. I agree with you. Like Grayson Rodriguez is going to be a major X factor. If you go into game 2 and you just flop from the pitching side,
Yeah.
not going to be good for the series. Not going to be good for the series.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
I think Grayson is probably already amped up for this. I think he's been mentally preparing. I think he's probably already going through looking at video, preparing, taking notes on every single Rangers player that he might face. I think he's excited. I think he's
Yeah.
geared up and excited.
I'm
And
sure
I
all those
think, like
guys
I
are
said, he's
excited.
going to come out throwing an extra mile per hour or 2 on that fastball.
Yeah, no doubt. And then as we kind of wind down this ALDS special, what is one of your picks to be like a sleeper performer? So like a guy that maybe didn't have the sexiest numbers during the course of the season, but he was solid. Like who's a breakout candidate for this series to you?
I'm gonna say Jordan Westberg.
Yeah,
I think Westberg will have a lot of opportunities in the playoffs, even though,
Yeah.
again, Adam Frazier has more experience in the playoffs. I think Jordan Westberg is a guy that on both sides of the ball could really explode. He's a really good defender, which is going to be really important going up against this really good offense that the Texas Rangers have.
Yeah.
But he's got a lot of pop. And we're still like, we've seen it a little bit in spurts during his rookie campaign, but we haven't really seen him explode yet. And I feel like he might be a guy that really feeds off the energy
Yeah.
that maybe Texas didn't think about it. He wasn't on this team last
Yeah.
time we played Texas. So they haven't seen this guy at all. He could be a sleeper to come out and have himself one heck of a series.
Yeah, no doubt. And then another guy who strikes out a bunch, got a K rate just under 25%. But again, another guy, when he puts it in play, good things happen. 336 BABIP for Jordan Westberg. Another thing to note, you alluded to the defense. He's already accumulated one win above replacement, 1.1. That's not easy to do, especially when you come up so late in the season and then don't really get as much playing time as some of the other guys who are playing. So the fact that, on both sides of the ball that he could accumulate over one win above replacement is really good. And I think that, I agree big time. He's definitely a sleeper candidate for sure.
And he can do either second base or third base.
Yeah.
So
Or
he's going to see
shortstop.
some playing time, depending, Frazier and Arias haven't really had batting averages that blow you away, right?
Yeah.
So, he can replace either of those guys. So I think he's going to get playing time. And I trust Jordan Westberg anywhere that you put him on that infield.
No doubt.
Put him at second base, put him at third base. I think he's good to go.
Yeah. My pick, and this might be a little surprising, but this is a guy who's had one hell of a year. And what better ending for Aaron Hicks to top off a really crazy year than a not historic, but an electric postseason run? I mean, he came to Baltimore from New York, immediately hit his stride, started doing much better, and then, kind of cooled off there at the end. But this is a guy who's been there. This is a guy who, when he's on, right? Spray the ball to all fields from both sides of the plate and play a fine outfield wherever you stick him. And I think that Aaron Hicks at the bottom of this order, he's 2023's Delman Young, perhaps.
I could see that. I think the big thing with Aaron Hicks too is his eye. He's got a great batting eye and he walks a lot.
Yeah, 14.8% walk rate.
So I mean, like, part of the struggle of any campaign is just get guys on base. And Aaron Hicks does that. He gets on base.
For sure.
So I could totally see that being a big factor, him coming up in a big at bat and putting the ball in a gap or walking to advance the runners or something. I could totally see Aaron Hicks being a sleeper pick for the Orioles.
It would make me nothing happier than, Aaron Hicks to just be surrounded by, a city that really, really likes their guys and to come out on top of this year.
Absolutely. Jack, I think let's do a schedule reminder, and then we can start to wrap this up with kind of our predictions for the series. So just for everyone to know, as you plan out your days and everything like that. So game 1 is tomorrow at 1:00. The earliest game of the ALDS. That's in part because of the Billy Joel concert happening at M&T Bank. So they got to get everyone out of there in time for that concert to happen. So 1:00 game. The parking lots open at 9:30. So you can get there as early as 9:30. Gates open at 10:30. So you can be there 2.5 hours before first pitch. And like I said, it's an orange out. They want everybody wearing orange. All right. From there, game 2 on Sunday is at 4:00. So for all you Ravens fans, the Ravens Steeler game is happening at 1:00. Hopefully the Ravens have put it away by then. I'll root for the Ravens and that, make it a Baltimore thing. As the Eagles fan in me kind of cringes at that, but hopefully they put it away by the fourth quarter so you can focus on this game starting at 4:00 mid-afternoon Sunday night or Sunday baseball. And then we have a day off on Monday, and then game 3 is Tuesday night, 8:00 in Texas. If it goes to game 4, it's going to be a Wednesday night game, 7:00 in Texas. And then if it goes to game 5, it'll be back in Baltimore on Friday. Jack, with all that in mind, as we wrap this up, what do you think? What's your outcome?
I think that these teams are so evenly matched that it's going to go to 5, and it's going to be Orioles in 5 winning the series at home.
Okay. I do not have tickets for game 5, by the way. You can best believe it goes. If it goes to game 5, I will be on SeatGeek really fast.
Yeah.
What
do you got?
I think, like you said, these are 2 evenly matched teams. I think none of these games are going to be blowout games. When I think about it, I like the pitching matchup for game 1, especially. I like the way that the Orioles play in Texas. I'm going to go Orioles in 4.
I like it.
Well, guys, this is a short episode because this is just a preview for the division. We're going to be back on, what do you say, Jack, Monday night?
Yeah, I would say on the off day.
Yeah, Monday night. We'll do a full recap of where we are in the series up to that point. Remember, if you guys are going this weekend, be loud. I don't think like anyone has to tell you that. I think everyone's just going to generally be loud. I think, Baltimore is ready for this. I don't know that the world is ready for what Baltimore is going to bring. I think, though, like you said, Jack, that energy that was in Philly for the wild card series, I think it's going to pale in comparison to what's about to happen in Baltimore.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be loud. You see on social media, like this whole week has just been building and building towards even more excitement. Yeah. I mean, pickles tomorrow, right? And then right into the stadium. Get into the stadium as early as you can. This opportunity really doesn't come out that many times, especially in recent years. So soak it in.
Here's what I'll say, Jack, about how I'm feeling right now and like my reflection as an Orioles fan. Back in 2014 and 2012, I didn't go to any of the playoff games because I was living in West Virginia, going to college. Yeah. Then in 2014, with as good a team that was, I was looking at getting tickets. I was finally graduated. I had a big boy job, all that stuff. And I was like, oh, maybe I should go. And I was like, I just can't quite get myself to do it. Again, I was still living in West Virginia at the time. Didn't pull the trigger. But at the time, I thought, this team is so good, I'll have other opportunities. Jack, I've waited 9 years since that moment. I'm going all in this year because you never know when you're going to get this moment again.
Yeah.
And I think no one knows that more than Baltimore fans. I mean, what happened in St. Petersburg this past week is a crime for baseball. And part of what probably hurts the Rays is that they're in the playoffs almost every year. And so those Rays fans who always complain about the drive to St. Pete, they were like, we'll have other years to go. In Houston, they're going to be loud because they've been good for a while. They've got a great fan base, but they've been doing this for years now.
Yeah.
Baltimore is about to explode because we don't know when this is going to happen again. Nothing is guaranteed. Right. We would love to think that, like, hey, with this young core, we're going to be good for the next 5-6 years, maybe the next decade, who knows?
Yeah.
Nothing in baseball is guaranteed. So,
Yep.
I mean, I know that the soak it in hashtag by the Orioles is a play on the waterworks theme,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. It's kind of cheesy in a way, but honestly,
Yeah.
soak it in, man. Just
Yeah.
soak in how special this is and how exciting this is going to be.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is going to be my first playoff game ever. I'm going to it. So I'm really excited to get out there. You can hear the dogs in the background. They're excited too.
The dogs are excited, man.
So yeah, it's going to be a fun time, man. Can't wait. Thank you to everybody on YouTube and Facebook for live commenting. Really appreciate all your comments. Unfortunately, we can't see the Twitter ones. So I actually heard about that a couple weeks ago that there's plenty of people going on Twitter, but we just can't see them. So sorry about that.
Well, apparently Elon Musk is making people pay to comment on live feeds anyways. So I think that's less of an issue now because I'm not going to ask people to pay to comment on our feeds.
Yeah. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you. If you rated 5 stars on your preferred platforms, I saw on Spotify, we got up to the number. You can see how many reviews we got. So there you go. That's exciting.
And leave us a review. Leave a comment. So if you review us on Apple Podcasts, you can actually leave a written review. That's always nice to see. As well as on Facebook, you can rate us on Facebook as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Hope to see everybody at the yard, and go O's.
Let's go get these dubs. Let's go O's. You've been listening to UPod Street, an Orioles podcast by fans for fans. UPod Street is an official Birdland Sports affiliate. Directly support the pod by purchasing UPod Street or other Orioles merchandise using the link birdlandsports.com/UPod Street. Get 10% off your order when you use the code UPod Street. Follow us on Twitter at UPod Street and at JackBain20. UPod Street is also on Facebook and YouTube, and you can listen to the show on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Spotify. On whatever platform you listen, please subscribe, rate the pod, and leave a review. If you leave a review, we may even read it on the show. We'll see you next week, and of course, let's go O's.